Welcome to Devil's Den. My name is Terry Lovelace. I'm joined by Aaron Montgomery. Hi, Aaron.
Welcome. So glad to have you here listening to us.
Yes, we are. And please like and subscribe. Please. We're trying to get this off the ground. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And today we have a guest named David Maes,
My
53 years
friend,
old, from Phoenix, Arizona. And he has a story that I bet you've never heard. It's one I'd never heard. It involves a walk on. So
very exciting.
very exciting stuff. So, but before we get to that, three, two, one, hit it, David. Today's very special guest is David Maes. David's originally a resident of Salt Lake City, and he's lived in Phoenix for a long time. And he has been an active MUFON member for about 12 years. And he has seen some strange things in the sky, kind of like Aaron and I have. And most interesting, David has seen a flying pyramid, as well as saucers and a bell-shaped object. The flying pyramid really grabbed my attention because I don't know if you saw, George Knapp and I believe it was Jeremy Corbell released some video footage from the US Navy shot with a night vision camera of a flying pyramid. And I have never seen a flying pyramid. And I did see a flying cube, and I have a photograph of it sailing over my house. So that had to be an interesting experience. Now, you also have knowledge of in between lives. You believe you're a reincarnation believer, I assume.
Oh, absolutely.
And sometime between, because the similarities between your story and my friend Bruce Leininger and his son James, who wrote the book Soul Survivor. He had memory as a child of choosing his parents, and he saw them on a beach in Honolulu by a pink hotel having dinner outside, which he had no way of knowing.
Uh-huh.
And that's when he chose them as his parents. And he was conceived very shortly thereafter. And but you actually have memory of a pre-life contract, an agreement of sorts. Is that right?
Yeah, and let me clarify. I'm a walk-in, but
and I don't know what that
and that's
means.
actually kind of not like uncommon, as I know of 4 or 5 other walk-ins. But
Okay.
what makes me a little more unique was I was allowed to remember being on the other side, being in an energy state, what my view and description at that time of what I would say heaven was, and I was able to remember the experience of my life agreements. And then when we were completed with it, I was just told to go ahead and wake up. And I woke up as a 5-6-year-old little boy, just woke up, wiggled my fingers, giggled, and went upstairs to find my mom because I was hungry.
That is amazing. I'm not familiar with the term walk-in,
Mhm.
and I mean, I understand what the words mean.
Yeah.
It's a verb, and I mean, when you say walk-in, is that kind of akin to waking up, an awakening?
Well, what happens is whomever the previous soul that was in my body as a child, for whatever reason, didn't want to go further. And at that time, I was sick as a child. And so I was downstairs in my bedroom asleep. And I just heard a loud whisper just saying, David. And next thing you know, I wake up and I'm in this, right next to the most gorgeous lake, that just crystal clear blue waters, very small pebble beach, the sound of the lake water kind of lapping on the shore, the mountains, the sky, everything was just incredible. And the colors, because I'm a graphic designer, so I work with colors.
Yes.
I know RGB and CMYK spectrums, way beyond that. And then we just started discussing, it's like the other entity was just kind of like, are you ready? And I saw him as light, I was light. Next thing you know, we just kind of took forms. Incredibly intelligent on the other side. We were incredibly intelligent.
Wow.
And the whole process
being...
of the whole process of, discussing your life agreements, so casual. It's, there's no, ominous, they're chiseling your life agreements in granite to store and some, no, it's just a conversation, kind of like what you and I and Aaron are having.
Yeah, because the word contract, as a lawyer, the word contract to me means something specific. It means an agreement between two people, offer consideration, all that stuff. So it's not that formal. It's like a conversation.
Yeah, and I never used contract. I always just used the term life agreement. We just had an agreement.
Sense. That makes sense.
And it's very broad. It's very broad. My all-time favorite one is, and it's as simple as this. You will have a daughter who is not your biological daughter, but you're going to love her as one. Agreed. That's it. That's a life agreement. And that's what I was told verbatim.
Before
I'd met my daughter.
stepping into the 5-year-old body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that a transition? I mean, you went from being an intelligent, a highly intelligent being to being a 5-year-old in mind and body and emotion. Was that a tough transition, or was that just easy?
It's easy. It's simple. Honestly, the universe is just so simple. I think we as humans, we need to have descriptors and titles and, names, and it's really just not that difficult. I see everything and everybody as souls. I watched your guys' last episode, on TV and movies when they talk about ETs and ghosts and, whatnot. I see everything as just, okay, those are souls. They're just souls. ETs, yeah. They're just higher dimensional souls. They're down here doing their job. We're, go through our lives, learning our lessons, doing our jobs.
Aaron, I would agree with that, I bet.
Absolutely. There is just, we each have our own thing that we're doing right now, but we all come from a common place. And seeing everything as, we're just equals, I think really, really changes perspective, from ETs are big and scary and out to get us to, oh, well, they're just doing what they got to do, and they're just doing their thing like we're doing our thing, like you just said. David, can you tell us the difference between somebody who understands that they're a walk-in and perhaps your experiences as a walk-in?
I am very good friends with 2 walk-ins, one of which lives here in Arizona, and I'm just very good friends with her. And no one that I've met yet has the level of memory and understanding that I experienced. Why I was allowed to remember, I don't know. But most of them have been in an accident or near death, or some one of them had just like a head trauma. And so, they came out of that experience, acting differently, seeing things differently. So, for someone to say, with 100% accuracy, myself and my experience, I can say, yes, I am a walk-in. Everything that I understand about being a walk-in, that is me. And I have the memory of, being on the other side and then being told, go ahead and wake up. And here I am as, a little boy. Mm-hmm. And everything that I've had agreed to in these life agreements have happened. Just beautifully, how everything just intertwines, and it's flawless. It's amazing. but you know, at the same time, I'm also human.
I could see times where those might be at conflict. So
You would think that. You would think that. But when you kind of have understand and kind of see things from like a different perspective than most, because literally I have no veil. I remember that. I remember some past lives. And, you know, for me, it's just like anything else.
You've
It's
never
almost
known any
like
different.
acting, you know, you agree to be in a school play and you kind of choose stuff for your role and then you jump in and do it.
and do you have advisors who sit and talk with you before you make this agreement? Or is that just
It was
between?
just a one-on-one with me and whomever this other soul was.
Wow.
The one
Wow.
that left the body of the 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then that person,
that soul, the previous soul, I've
Oh, I
no
see.
knowledge
Okay.
of
Oh,
where they
okay.
went or what happened to them and you know what their circumstances were.
Okay, gotcha. So the person that you were sitting and talking to was kind of like
Was
that
someone
advisor
else,
saying, okay,
like
so you
a
ready?
birthing guide or another guide, and we were discussing stuff. You know, when we were discussing it, one of the things during the middle of our conversation was, I can hardly wait for food. Literally, that's I was like, I was excited and we laughed, and it's like, I can hardly wait for food. Thank God. I
because you
came from a
remembered the
planet with
experience of
tacos.
eating from a previous life.
Probably, or you know, my thought was it was possibly I'm higher dimensional. I don't want to like, you know, toot my horn and say it's like, yeah, I have a pretty good understanding of where I came from because I have friends who are mediums, and nearly every medium I have been to have been like, who the hell are you? Because there's a whole room of guides in here with you, and they're all hands on.
Whoa.
But I guess that I was maybe higher dimensional, and you don't have to eat, and so to come down and have tacos, yeah, I want that. And scotch and cigar.
And scotch. And maybe even a decent cigar. Not
Yes.
that that's not an endorsement of tobacco use.
So, David, not only have you had this, very interesting soul journey to get here on this planet, you are also a UFO contactee.
I am.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences as a contactee?
You know, I thought, you know, as a child, I was always into like aliens and Star Trek and Space 1999. You know, loved all that stuff as a kid, and you know, it's kind of like this parallel of living my life, knowing what things are going to happen in my life, and then having kind of odd things happen, and things finally made sense when there was, I forgot who it was that had created a film, and they were talking about and at the time they were really heavily using the term abductees instead of contactees, and they had one section where they had shown a left thigh scoop mark. And when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, that's what I have. And then things immediately just started clicking, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, that happened to me. You know, the whole waking up in the middle of the night and you cannot move. And for me, you know, the room was glowing. You know, everything like had a glow. And I know I get that after I have like a Reiki session. It's like everything has a glow to it and everything is just glowing. And so, you know, things really started happening. And then, you know, the shit really hit the fan when I woke up and there are 3 grays right next to my bed in the middle of the night. And this had to have been maybe, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago.
Okay.
You're in your mid 40s?
No, I'm 54 now.
So, yeah, so mid 40s.
So I'd make you 45.
Yeah.
And then
And,
what was
you
your
know,
reaction when
they,
fear?
I woke up and they saw me and immediately turned around and just kind of, and then I was out.
And then
So
that's
they,
just lost time. That's kind of a missing time thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that happens. That's, you know, for contactees, missing time,
Yeah.
it's common. Uh, Nearly every contactee I've come across, we all have a high pitch in our hearing,
Oh, yeah.
and it's 24/7. A lot of newer contactees, they're starting to come online, so theirs is intermittent. Ours, high pitch 24/7.
Yeah, I make this joke that I'll know that I'm finally dead whenever that noise stops.
Exactly.
Why it got awful quiet all of a sudden.
I wouldn't even know what to do if it went away.
Yeah, it'd be an abrupt change, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd probably go into a panic. Just, oh my God, it stopped.
do you ever have changes in the tones?
When it goes up in tone, one of those, it'll just stop you in your tracks, kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh,
Have
yeah.
you ever? Okay, so I had this experience a couple of years ago where, I do have that constant high pitched sound, but then I'll have other tones that will come in and it's either in one ear or another. And I was at a UFO conference. Well, it was like a UFO supernatural type of conference in Santa Fe. I guess this was probably 2018. And I was eating breakfast in the casino because it was in a casino like they often are. And I heard a song on the plane of the radio, and I love the song, but of course now I can't even think of the name of it. That's what happens to a mid-40s brain of a woman. The names disappear. It's a Journey.
Welcome to my world. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's a Journey song. I love it, and I thought, oh, I love that song. And then I looked and saw that the guy sitting across, like there's a dude over there, and he's in a T-shirt, and he had the name of the song on the back of his shirt, and I thought, whoa, that's crazy synchronous, and then later, when it did my thing, but then I was walking down the hall and I got that tone in my ear and that man in that t-shirt walked by and I understood at that point, like, okay, so these changes in tones is direct communication. I knew at that moment that I was being told, hey, remember we had that song, the dude, and here's the dude again, so we're like connecting the dots for you. You hear this sound, we're communicating. Do I understand the communications? No. I would love to be able to interpret it with this mind that I have right now in this body, but I can't. But there is communication. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
There's got to be something, something, I don't know what it is. What I can say is, because I walked in, I have certain like abilities, let's just call them. One of them is like a certain kind of knowledge. And
Precognition.
I've always ascertained that high pitch has to do with an implant that is in us somewhere in our bodies. As contactees, we all have one. That's how we're tracked. And it was at one of the UFO Congress here in the Phoenix area that Yvonne Smith has her morning experiencers group, and I drove out to go see it, and there was a whole crowd. I kind of showed up late, and she was kind of winding down, and it's like, does anybody have any questions? And I just kind of like raised my hand, and Yvonne and I know each other, so she introduced me to the crowd. And I had said, out of everybody here, after listening to stories, how many of you think that you're a contactee? And half the crowd's got their hand up. And it's like, okay, put your hands down. Out of everybody here who thinks they're a contactee, how many of you have a high pitch in your hearing? Okay, now maybe half those hands, came up this time. And so I always have this trick question. It's like, okay, for those of you who have the high pitch in your hearing, I want you to raise your right arm if it's only in your right ear, or your left arm if it's only in your left ear. And so now we only had 6 people that had both hands up. And I had said, for the people that have both hands up, you have the highest likelihood of being a contactee, because for being a contactee, that is one of the better litmus of gauging someone who is a contactee. Of course, that person could be lying, saying, hey, oh my gosh, I have this hearing. It's like, can you describe that hearing? And it's like a high pitch. Well, it sounds like you're standing in a field of cicadas. For those who know what a cicada sounds like.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as, we have the 6 people, someone in the crowd asked, well, what causes it? And I said, it's most likely it's from an implant that we have. And we're not actually hearing it, we're actually generating it. It just sounds like we're hearing it. We're actually generating it. It's like a signal. Maren Hosenfeld, who was the assistant for Yvonne that morning, all of a sudden blurts out, that makes sense. Oh my gosh, that makes sense. So now the whole crowd's looking at her. And she said, and I didn't know this, Maren works with the deaf, and she was working with a young lady who has contact experience. And although she has no internal ear parts, here's the high pitch that we have.
Wow.
Just the way if you've ever had telepathic conversation with someone, you hear it not audibly, but inside your head with crystal clarity.
Yeah. I've always described when I pick up someone's thoughts, and it's just totally hit or miss, random, I have no control. For me, it sounds just like a loud whisper that surrounds you. It's not, I picked it up on this side. For me, it was just like a loud whisper that surrounds you.
You know what I'd like to ask is that as a child, between the ages of, say, 5, let's say 5 and 8, have you ever had a really, really vivid dream? I'm not talking about an actual experience, but a dream that is as vivid in your mind today as it was the day you had it, and it stayed with you for all of your life.
Oh, yes.
I found that to be a commonality. I had, over 1,600 people sent me their stories from the email address I put in the epilogue of my book. And that seems to be a real commonality. People tell me, it's crazy. I can remember the stupid dream from age 4. And I email them back and I say, well, can you tell me what you got for Christmas? Who was at your birthday party? Where'd you go on family vacation? All that stuff's gone. They can't remember any of that. But that stupid dream has stayed with them for a lifetime. So you've experienced that.
Yeah. And oddly enough, it is a recurring dream, and it's exactly the same every single time. And it's actually from 2 experiences in my last 2 previous lives.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you even were remembering that at the age of 5.
Yeah.
Dreams.
Yeah. I was an odd little kid. My mom hated it. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Catholic, went to Catholic school, priests, nuns, altar boy, the whole 9 yards. And, I would go up to people and it's like, hey, when do you get to die and go home? My mom like, shut up. I would know stuff before it happens, just say stuff. And this is very true. We had a new priest. And when I actually happened to be there with my mom, I was maybe like 8 or 9. And he went to introduce himself to me, and he put his hand out, and I just pulled my hand away, and I just went, I know what you did. I know what you do to those boys. And the look of horror on his face was priceless. Of course, as a little kid, I was just kind of like, my mom's like, why are you saying this to the priest? They're the workers of God. And he kept a wide berth around me the whole time.
I bet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you have that ability? I mean, that would be a very handy thing to have in business and in life in general, to be in tune with how genuine someone is or disingenuous someone
Yes.
is.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of growing up with, we'll just call them abilities.
Yeah.
And there's various levels of of intuition. You know, there are people who are clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. And, you know, my modalities with those kind of, some are stronger than others. And they're not on all the time. A lot of times it's like hit and miss. Sometimes I'll just get something random, but it'll have a certain meaning for me at that time to know something. And, you know, sometimes it has some significance. Sometimes it's like, what was that about? So, you know, yeah, it's helpful. Also, like other contactees, we are highly empathic. We will know when you're lying, because we'll feel it. And there's not much people can get away with around me.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you know, you'll know they're lying. I'm not going to call you out on it because that's not my job. You know, if you feel you need to lie about something, you need to, you know, not tell the truth or not share an experience, you know, that's on you. That's part of your life and your life journey and lessons. Not about me. I don't judge you about that.
Yeah. That's their consequences too.
Yeah, it is.
Hmm.
It is.
I actually have the same philosophy, and people are often surprised when I say I really don't care if somebody lies to me or not, because I know if they're lying.
Oh yeah.
But to me, it's like, okay, well, you're telling me this story for a particular reason, and whatever reason that is valid to you at the moment. So, you know, go ahead and tell me, and you know what, it's on you whether there's a consequence or not. Like you said, Terry, it's, you know, you to deal with, not me,
Yeah.
because I know.
You know, earlier, you know, Terry had asked something about, you know, contactees, and we were talking about, you know, the high pitch that we have as a litmus. The actual best litmus, and it is absolutely common with every contactee, but it's nothing that we can gauge, is every contactee is highly service to others, meaning we think about other people 50% or more of the time. We can't stop thinking about other people. We could be like just typing and doing our work, and it's like, I wonder how Mary's doing. I wonder how like Jeff's doing. I wonder how Terry's doing. I wonder, you know, we can't stop thinking about other people.
And
But,
it's against
you know,
our nature to be mean
yeah,
spirited. I mean, that's just not, there's no place for that.
yeah, it's, you know, the whole concept of thinking about myself. I tried to do it for like 10 minutes. And it is so hard to just think about myself, my comfort, you know, me. And it's like, ew,
Yeah.
just doesn't resonate at all.
You know, I could be a mean guy in a courtroom when I'm there representing someone, but for me, it's all theater. It's not the real me. It's
Yeah.
theater, you know, for the benefit of another.
Yeah. And, you know, I talk about, you know, us being, you know, very service to others oriented. And I talk about it quite a bit to other people whenever we, you know, discuss these sort of things. And I happen to have watched, it's a new movie that came out, is it Unacknowledged? And it talks about some contact experiences. Well, there's this, in the movie, there's the, what was the UFO visit in South Africa with the,
with the school kids.
with the school kids. Well, you know, later on, they didn't came back and re-interviewed the kids who actually went forward and met, you know, the ETs. Well, you know, guess what those kids are doing now? They're lawyers for like underprivileged people, a nurse, teachers, you know, caregiver, highly service to other types of, you know, jobs. And so I always stay, you know, stick with, you know, what I say is, you know, every contactee I know is highly service to others.
Mm-hmm.
Like Aaron.
Absolutely.
I try, and I know so many contactees, and there are so many different helper type positions. You know, I'm a therapist, but I know people in environmental science, taking care of the planet, medical field, even cooks. There's a lot of cooks, a lot of people that I want to feed you, things like that. Um, it really is quite a beautiful thing. And it reminds me of, if somebody asks me, what is the purpose? Why are they here? And what are they trying to do? And my answers can only come out with the themes that us contactees seem to receive from them, and oftentimes in scary apocalyptic type of dreams. But the messages we receive are take care of the planet, take care of each other, no more war. Just love, 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 love. And in my opinion, if those are the messages that we're receiving, are we so sure this is a bad thing that's happening, as far as contact goes? That
Aaron, I'm sorry to cut you off, and I tend to do that a lot
fine.
and use the F word a lot. And I'm really doing my best to not.
Good, I'm glad.
It's tough.
Oh, fuck yeah. So, Aaron, you brought up something about, these kind of apocalyptic dreams.
Mhm.
I had one happen, and I noticed that there are other contactees that have the exact type of
Yes.
these apocalyptic dreams. And for us, well, I can only speak for myself. For myself, I had a dream where I was on a tall mountain. I was with a tall gray, and he was showing me down below the earthquakes, tidal waves, and kind of destruction. Nothing was said. I was just shown this. And, it's just like that little section of that dream I remembered. And it was at Travis Walton's first or second Skyfire Summit that I went up there to help the people from MUFON and Karen Berard and what's his Alejandro Rojas
Oh yeah.
bring up some stuff. And so I ended up staying with Jim and Stacy and Mary Ann. They had a big suite, and she's like, "Hey, just stay with us. We got to pull out couch." And so, I was there, and I'm very comfortable, very familiar with Jim and Stacy from Phoenix MUFON. And, we were just talking, and, I just immediately looked at Jim and I said, "Jim, tell me about the dream you had where you're on the mountain with the tall gray." And he just looks at me like, "How'd you know I had that?" It's like, I just know stuff. And so he had told the story of the exact same thing. He was on a tall mountain with the tall gray, looking at the destruction below. And then he said he had turned and saw a camp set up with a bunch of people, and Stacy, who was the other co-director of Phoenix MUFON, was there helping out. And he said, I distinctly remember her being in front of a big whiteboard and writing out all these things. So okay, now there's two people that have the exact same dream. And so I would just kind of randomly ask certain people, and they're just kind of like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" So yeah.
That's amazing. Just curious, when you're talking about this, do you have feelings, precognition? Do you have any sense about coming Earth changes?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, let's say we're talking about the New Madrid shift that's going to be happening here pretty soon. That took me a while to figure out what the hell that scenario was that I saw. There's a whole lot of stuff that I'll pick up that I'll know. Even though I'm kind of shown the answer, I have to figure out what the question is for that answer.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Gordon Michael Scallion and
His map.
his map? Yep, the map.
Yes.
For those who haven't seen it, Gordon Michael Scallion was a futurist in the 1990s who made a map of the United States showing that California and Florida were gone. Most of the East Coast was gone. The Mississippi River had expanded to a couple hundred miles in breadth, and just a scary as heck map. And
Yes,
don't know.
a lot
You
of us
see,
contactees do have the understanding of a lot of the destruction that's going to be, and I'm going to use that term destruction loosely. You know, there will be some destruction, some more than others, but and earth changes that are going to be happening. Uh, Yvonne Smith, she did an article uh, years ago in a newspaper, and she sent us all a link. And at the end of it, she had said a lot of us contactees, because she does regression, we all talk about this coming earth changes. And she actually said it, and that newspaper published it. And I was proud of her, because a lot of times that's a very strong thing to do, to say, hey, look, we have X number of people who are, you know, visited, and they're saying this, and I'm going to pass along the same message. You know, something may happen, and you know, that's hard. That's hard for people to, you know, say, go out on a limb and say stuff like that.
it is, you are out on a limb. It's dangerous to prophesize because
Yeah.
you can lose credibility. But do you know Dr. Bruce Solheim?
No, nuh-uh.
He's a serial
Oh.
member. Dr. Bruce is a friend of mine, friend of Aaron's, and he's a very insightful guy,
Mhm.
and he's been psychic all of his life, and he sees you know, perhaps some changes coming too. You know, I remember when I was at the UFO. I met Aaron there at the where were we? I forgot. Oh, we were
In Roswell.
in Roswell, right?
Yeah.
And I spoke to a group of people in 2018.
Hmm.
And at the end of my talk, I just asked, if does anybody here feel like something big is coming? If so, raise your hand. You know, there's maybe 90 people in the room. Everybody's got a hand up. So, you know, I'd be curious to ask that question today. I bet I get the same response.
Yeah, you probably would. You know, we don't. I like the fact that uh, when a certain spectrum of people, and we'll just say contactees, and a percentage of those contactees within that spectrum have this exact same type of dream, that makes it more plausible than for, making it up, or,
Right.
reading it on, some website, or someone who posts a YouTube video, and fucking hell, there's so many bad ones out there. There's so much disinformation. That's so much that just discredits a lot of what's going on. It's
You're talking about two people having the same story.
yeah, but yeah, having two people have the same story, that's a lot more quantifiable than something more random.
God, yes. I mean, you know, both bolster each other's story. That's, you know, I think that's why the military bust people up, keep people separated whenever they have a shared experience for that reason.
Probably.
That makes a lot of sense.
Probably. I'm fortunate that, where my location is, and some of the people that I know, and, I'm not like, other, not like other, I don't want to say like other people, a lot of them are so into UFOs, and I could care less about them. It's like, I can't get excited for space taxis. All right, UFOs are space taxis to me. It's like, I can't get excited about it. I saw that black pyramid fly over, and it was close, it was in detail, it was the size of a 2-story house, it was all black, there were no lights, it was silent, it was hovering or flying about 10, 15 stories high, and it just flew. I was in the backyard having a cigar, just looking out to the Superstition Mountains, and it's just beautiful. I'm relaxing. It's becoming dusk, and all of a sudden, I just turned my head, just really had to crank my head, and here it comes, just cruising by, and then all of a sudden, up and gone.
Up and gone.
Yeah, so it's like
So what made you turn your head, David?
Yeah.
just intuition. You know how when
Mhm.
it's just
What did it feel like?
um
Can you recall?
just you have that quick look, kind of a, it's kind of like if you, it's hard to describe. No one's ever asked me that. It's kind of like when someone says, "Hey," and then you just kind of turn your head, but no one said anything. There's no sound or nothing. It was just kind of intuition, quick look, way out of my peripheral vision, and there it was.
Wow.
Now, the really cool part was I love where I live. The Phoenix MUFON people are amazing. They have their annual camp out, and we go up to Airplane Flats, which was, I don't know, like 10 miles away from where Travis got picked up.
Yeah.
And Travis shows up. He shows up at like 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. We'll see him like asleep in the car, awesome guy, just the sweetest person when you get to know him. And shit, I just lost my train of thought.
Camping trip.
So yeah, so we have this camp out, and we're talking, and I slowly getting to know some of the new investigators, and there was this one gentleman who was there, and he was really quiet. And so I kind of went up to him and it's like, hey, my name's Dave, and it's like, are you an investigator? He's like, no, not really. It's like, so are you, interested? He's like, I'm just kind of interested in this sort of stuff. And it's like, well, tell me about yourself. And he was just really quiet, really kind of hard to price something out. Real, nothing I could pick up.
Was it Whitley Strieber by any chance?
No. And then it just like popped in my head. And I said, hey, you know what? I've seen a pyramid UFO before. And all of a sudden he was just kind of like, really? Tell me about it. And I said, as I described to you guys, it was about the size of a 2-story house. It was all black. You could see a texture to it. It had a texture to it. There were no lights. It was silent, and it flew here. And he was just kind of like, hold on, I'll be right back. And comes back 5 minutes, and he has this folder, and he opens up, and there's this article, and there's a drawing of a guy on a motorcycle who had seen a pyramid UFO. And in the drawing, it looks like it could have been 2-story house, about the size of a 2-story house, about the same height that I was describing. They had drawn some texture to it, but underneath they had like 3 lights. Mine didn't have that. And so, he was just became, super excited. And then, we were talking, that evening, but I don't know why I picked up on being able to, mention this one specific thing.
It obviously struck a nerve with him.
Yeah, maybe that's, I got some help to say, hey, this will help open him up. I don't know.
Synchronicity.
Yeah. Again, I love living here. I really enjoy the people that I know, and, some of the contacts and places that it, sends me. I got to hang out with, okay, so I'm not into UFOs. We've established that. I could care less about them. Even ETs, those don't even interest me, because again, they're just souls. They're doing their job. Everyone's like, how come they're emotionless? Well, you know what? If you were a doctor doing surgery, yeah, you'd be pretty emotionless because you're focusing on what your job is.
Yeah.
I'm sure that when they're not on duty, having to deal with us humans, and believe me, we're scary. We are scary. We're violent creatures. We have fight or flight. That is just genetic. There is no clicking that off. It's
Nope.
And we're dangerous.
Well, let's shift gears from UFOs and let's talk about the afterlife, because I think you have some insight into the afterlife the average person doesn't have. So what are we doing between reincarnations? We just hanging out, or we?
You know what? To be honest, I don't know. I don't know. My memory just starts at the point of being told to wake up, and there I am, in heaven or wherever I was, because I can't say, that was heaven with any type of certainty. It's just where I was.
Yeah.
And, you know, the colors were just incredible. And, you know, the person I was talking to, we were very familiar, you know, and we were talking about, you know, the things that were going to happen. And I hear stories about people who, you know, we're given our life agreements and we can't change them. I know that when we were discussing my life agreements, after I agreed to the life agreement with the girl who's going to be my daughter, but not my biological daughter, but I'll love her as one, and I agreed. The next one was, okay, you're going to be married and you're going to have a boy and a girl. And I said, no, I want to change that. Instead, I want to use that period of time to reflect upon my life so that I have a better learning experience. And then they said, agreed. So, you know, I know I was able to change it. And, you know, you can't make that kind of a life decision as a 5-year-old child.
No.
You know, only someone who has an incredible amount of knowledge as to, you know, what's going on with, you know, our lives and our learning. And I use the term life lessons. You know, the way that I say these things to you guys is verbatim because I remember it. You know, I've actually had to like write some down just so I make sure that I word it very carefully.
You have a lot in common with near-death experiencers, don't you?
Oddly enough, yeah, my dad is a near-death experiencer. My dad was killed in a car accident. His head was crushed so that both eyes were actually looking at each other. And he remembers being out of his body. He remembers the ambulance person stealing his ring. He remembers what everyone describes as the light and going up to the light and seeing family members that have crossed over already. And they greeted him. And then someone came up to him and just said, it's not your time. You have to go back.
And he was bummed.
Yeah. So, you know, I grew up with, you know, his story and, you know, yes, there's another side. And it's like, well, yeah, I know there's another side because I remember being on the other side, you know, so it's just easy, you know, for me growing up with that type of, you know, upbringing.
So
My
in
mom, on the other hand, is a little different.
I was going to
My
say,
mom
on one
is
hand,
deeply
you had
religious.
the stop talking about this, but then you had it normalized on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Do you fear death?
No, no, not at all. You know, one of the things that I've always wondered is because I know my life agreements, I know when I get to die. I know when I'm done here, and I don't use the term die. I use the term I finally get to come home. You know, I've got one more life agreement, and then once that one's done, I can go back home. I can get out of here.
Have you ever had a past life regression?
Huh?
Have you ever had a past life regression?
No. You know, I had a regression with Yvonne Smith.
Yep.
Once, and I was interested in, I wanted to have a better understanding of my next upcoming life agreements.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to know what happened to me one morning in Colorado, in Pueblo, Colorado. I went up to Pueblo to go visit a friend, and the next morning at like 4 a.m, I woke up and my thumb was just burning. And then I had seen turn on the light, and it looked like someone had gotten a scalpel and cut into my thumb where you could see the pink flesh, but there was a clear goo on top of it. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. We just hung out in the hotel room, had a couple beers, caught up, watched TV, and then I went to bed. You know, I didn't get up. And so I had this, and it's like, well, that's weird. So later on, I don't know, so that happened at like 4 a.m. Later on, probably 8 or 9 o'clock-ish, I woke up and looked at my thumb, and it's like, oh, that's healed pretty quickly. So it's like, I'm gonna take a picture of it. And then later on that afternoon, it's like, holy shit, that thing is like healing fast. I took a picture of that. And by, I think 5 o'clock, it had looked like it had completely healed. And I took a picture of that.
Wow.
That's weird.
Yeah. So I had asked, what had happened, what that was about, or if that was a contact visit. And, when I was regressed with Yvonne, and by the way, I've given Yvonne to feel free to talk about me to any Cero member. There was a tall gray in the room. We couldn't see him. And I guess they were there waiting. And, me and my friend are just hanging out, having beers, just talking, catching up, and went to bed, and I guess just took some samples. I never asked to find out why, but it was amazing how fast it healed. It went from, wow, that cut looks deep. I can see pink flesh. What is that clear goo on top? To 5 o'clock. Oh, this is healed completely.
Wow.
And you have photographic evidence of that. That's
Oh
very
yeah. Oh yeah.
smart enough to think to take the photos. I like that.
Yeah.
No,
Every
seriously.
now and then.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
No, I think
It
it's a
is
very
good
smart
to
thing.
take those. Yeah. David, I joined CRO in 2012 or 2013. I can't quite remember which year. Of course, being in New Mexico, I couldn't do any of the meetings or anything that happens in California, but I was able to get onto the Facebook page and share. And you were one of the first people that friended me on there, and I was able to talk to you. And I know that between 2013 and 2015, when I had my first regression, I was on ship and had an experience with you on the ship. And I know that we've talked about this, but what I remember is being on ship in a very white room. I don't remember anything about the room except it was very, very white. And then there was like a porthole, and it looked, oddly, now that I know what a Einstein Rosen bridge is, that's exactly what this looked like. It was, I could see, it kind of funneled out and went like this.
Mm-hmm.
I could see I was on one side and you were on the other. And it was like, hi, through the little window. But that's all I remember. And your room was white as well. And I remember waking up and sending you a message immediately saying, I think I saw you on ship. And I had never met you, and I still haven't met you in person.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I just recognized you from your photograph on Facebook.
Yeah. And you're
And
not the first one to tell me that.
yeah, but I do remember you also telling me that your feet were dirty that morning.
Yeah.
You were able to verify that, yeah, I probably was on a ship with you. Do you remember, do you remember that conversation way back in like 2013, 2014?
I remember us talking about that. Oddly enough, I have no memories of being on a ship. I've had several people recognize me and tell me, about being on ship and them seeing me discussing stuff with some of the ETs there. I don't actually have it. The only memory I have is a vague recollection of two memories. I'm sorry. One was triggered when Linwood, who is a friend of ours in our contactee group, has a memory of us as children. And he's a little bit younger than I am. And he's also dyslexic. So he was having problems understanding. There was a bunch of us kids looking at screens, and he was struggling, and I went to try to help him out and try to help him understand. And it wasn't until, and we've never met, and this was only a couple of years ago, that he was telling us the story. And it's like, I kind of vaguely remember something about that. And,
Yeah.
I also have another friend of mine who lives here. Her name is Tammy. And Tammy has a distinct memory of seeing me on ship and talking discussing stuff with the ETs.
Isn't that a kicker? You have all this knowledge from before you incarnated into this body at the age of 5,
Yeah.
but nothing.
Nothing myself.
nothing.
And you know what? I'm in
Like, David,
Phoenix.
that's
I didn't even
rude.
see the Phoenix lights. It's like you guys could have sent a memo, and like, oh shit, we forgot to tell Dave. Let's send this pyramid by, and that'll tide him over. You
That'll
know,
get your attention.
I get a lot of in the Sorrow group, and this is how I met Yvonne Smith. She came to do one of the presentations at Phoenix, and while she was doing her presentation, there's like this podium, and then over here is like this big screen, and she was in the middle, and would just reach over and touch the keypad for the next slide. And I'm in the back, sitting between two people. One of them is this little old black lady. Her name is Miss Yvonne. Miss Yvonne is the one who really woke me up. She is direct. She is clairaudient. She has incredible knowledge. She's just an amazing, amazing person. And she picked me out of a freaking crowd and was just grab me by the hand and sit me down. It's like, who are you? So, she would always, tell me stuff. And this other guy, Big Stan, I'm 6'2", 270, and I have to call him Big Stan because he's just like that big. And he has the most kindest, gentle person, and he has like amazing abilities also. So after during the Yvonne's presentation, I was kind of sitting in the back, just relaxed, and she had a neutral color wall behind her, so that helps seeing auras a lot easier. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I saw her auras really start to develop and get more solid. Well, Yvonne Smith's this little tiny 5'1", 5'2" lady, and all of a sudden, this thing just kind of got taller, and it's like, okay, that's different. I've never seen that before. And then she leans over to touch the keyboard, and it stayed put. And it's like, yeah, no, auras don't do that. They go with the body. And I was like, that's just weird. All right, whatever. So after the meeting, Miss Yvonne, being Miss Yvonne, just looks at me and just directly, she's like, so what'd you see? And I was just like, well, I saw, and then I described to her what you were saying. And then all of a sudden, before I could really finish the story, Big Stan goes, and when she leaned over to touch the computer, it's like it stayed there and then dissipated. I was like, yeah. She goes, see, you need to stop doubting yourself. And she's like, you need to go down and talk to her and tell her you saw that. Something's going to happen. And so I was like, all right, went down, introduced myself, told her what I saw, and Big Stan, again, finished the story before I did. So now she has confirmation that, two of us saw the exact same thing, and it was very unusual. And then we became friends ever since. She invited me into Sorrow, and this is going to lead into another story with someone who's also in the Sorrow group. So I go into Sorrow group, do your introduction, say hi, and, got to know this young lady. Her name's Holly. So we were talking and, just kind of like emailing or messaging stuff back and forth. And one day she just said, who's really into UFOs? Christopher Walken. And she's like, I worked with him on a movie. And my heart just like skipped a beat. So to preface this whole story, when I was 16, and I'm 54 now, Communion came out with the streamer.
Yes.
And there was a scene in the movie where I wanted to go see this movie, and the movie theater is only like a half mile from my house. So I went to go catch a midnight movie. 16 midnight movies, easy stuff. Went there's only like 4 people in the whole theater. But there's a scene in the movie where Christopher Walken's with his son, they're trick-or-treating, going down the hall, and he's trying to and scare his kid because there's this glowing pumpkin at the end of this hallway. And as they get closer, all of a sudden this alien head pops up. And Christopher Walken like screams and yells at it, and all of a sudden this hand comes up and takes a mask off, and there's a girl underneath this mask. As soon as that mask came off and I saw that girl, I stopped. It's like, oh my God, what are you doing on screen? How are you in the movie? And probably within 5 seconds after that, it's like, wait, how do I know her? I don't know her. And it just, it stuck with me for like a week. It's like, how do I know that girl? Who's that girl? So anyhow, joined Sarah group, started talking to this girl. And, she said she was in a movie with Christopher Walken. That was a young girl growing up.
Right. And you're speaking about Hollyfield, yeah?
Yeah. It happens, all the time. We have this, how do I know you? You look so freaking familiar. How do I know you?
Mm-hmm.
But, because we get our memories screened so that we can try to live our lives as a 3D human as best as possible. A lot of times our subconscious, which does record everything, sometimes stuff trickles up, and that will, some will trigger a memory, and it'll start building upon itself. But that's, a lot of times how we recognize some other people, because we've seen them, on ship or, as kids.
Right.
I remember the other memory I have, and it wasn't on ship, it was just being in a room with other kids, and we're trying to move a ball with our minds.
No way.
Yeah.
I had the same experience.
Me too. Mine was blocks, but same thing.
Mine was a blue cube.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it, and then I did it, and then it flew across the room about 10 feet, and I got high praise from Sue. And I used to take me as a kid, and it'd be in a big white round room with the same kids all the time. They weren't kids from my neighborhood or kids I knew from school. I've often wondered, if I ran into one of those people today as an adult, would I recognize them? Would we recognize one another?
There's probably something that would probably trigger, and you'd at least give them like a second or two longer look.
Yeah.
But not the pure, hey, do you remember being in the white room as kids? No, but it'll be like something familiar.
Aaron, ever meet anyone from the room?
From the room? No. Not that I know of, except for Linwood, who I remember walking by the door, because he was a little older. The earliest memory I have on ship is about 4 years old, in a very round white room with other children around me, and we were manipulating these blocks back and forth with our minds, just maneuvering them around like playing catch in slow-mo.
Communicating telepathically with one another.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a gray who walked by, and a little boy. Again, I was 4, he was probably around 10 or something like that. And he stopped in the doorway, pointed at me and said, "I'll know you later." And then he went on with his, guide. And it's our mutual friend Linwood, who's he's a really cool dude. And so it was in talking to him that I had that flash of memory, like, oh, okay, that takes me back way earlier than my first thought of memory, which was around 7. But yeah, so that put me even further. But, as a child, and this was gained through regression, there was another room that I was in for training, and it was almost like a gymnasium. And I've never heard anybody else describe this room the way I have, but there were podiums all around, and each podium had a being at it, and children standing in front of the podium that were learning a lesson of some sort. And the ceiling was like honeycomb shaped pipes, with these hexagonal openings, and through it I could see the stars. And I want to say there's probably a force field or something. Anyways, we were not just floating out in space, but it was in that room at that podium with a very tall white type being, that I was taught how to activate chakras. And then I was also taught how to manipulate gravity. Was taught how to fly. And I remember him getting very annoyed at me, like, "Are you done yet?" Focus, land. And I didn't want to. But yeah, that was around 10 or 11. I think that happened. But yeah, I've never had anybody else describe the room like that to me. Have either of you ever heard of a room like that?
No,
Ah,
no. I get
um,
so many people that contact me through Messenger on the backside because, they're, even though the contactee group that I started is just a really great, safe place for people to just talk about our sort of stuff without the ridicule, the eye rolls, the snide comments that are in other groups.
mhm.
And, because my contactee group is just for contactees, for us to discuss, like the high pitch, the marks that we get on our bodies, missing time, and everything that comes along with being a contactee. And the greatest thing that I get is when people contact me through the back channels and they're just kind of like, hey, listen, I have this experience, have you heard of this? And it's like, yeah, of course I have. This is, I hear so many times they refer to it as a phenomenon. It's not a phenomenon. It's like literally an everyday occurrence somewhere on this planet. But because, they have, more non-interference and plausible deniability, like Star Trek, they have like the whatever the rule is, uh, it's not common knowledge. There's people in the government that understand it. Yeah, absolutely. They know exactly what's going on. Is it shared with us? Yeah, to a small degree. But it's Linwood is just a great example of I found another like a UFO group, and he wanted to express stuff, and people kind of ridiculing or making fun of, and I just messaged him. It's like, hey, dude, why don't you come into this group? And the more that he had this fear of his visitations when he was younger, and and it's very common with a bunch of other contactees, and the ones that are actually abductees, are the ones that have developed the PTSD or fears because there's no real person or place to go to kind of help explain what's going on.
Mhm.
And that was kind of one of the reasons why I started the group, was so that we had a safe place for everybody to be able to talk. And it's like, share marks. It's like, hey, your triangle mark, that looks the same as mine. And, and it all happens in waves. And, next thing you know, there's 3 people got the same marks. And, Linwood had fear, and now, nope, no fear. He has discovered his guide, Walter.
Mhm.
Those 2 work together. Amazing. He got into, he had messaged me, was like, hey, I was thinking about getting a pendulum. What are your thoughts on that? It's like, you know what? I don't know. I've never had a pendulum. I don't know how they work. Some people seem to have very good success.
Uh-huh.
You should give it a try. And so they got it. And
one near my bed and one in my purse that I carry everywhere.
yeah, he then, a couple days later, he just video called me so excited. Oh, you gotta see this. And, we're just going back and forth. It's like, all right, ask Walter this. He's like, ask Walter this. And, we're just, and kind of through his guide, Walter, which kind of helped expand my understanding a little bit more. I was like, we started asking about densities. What density are, is this person in our group from? What about this person? We started asking about ourselves. And, through that, we discovered 2 things. Everybody who is a contactee, literally the lowest density soul person is 4. This
Can
is a
you
3D
explain?
Earth.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you explain what that density means
Yeah, I'm
for
lost.
our
You
listeners?
lost me.
That yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the easiest way to describe densities is, it's a term I'll use. Some people just use dimensions. Here on Earth, this is a 3rd density. It's like 3rd grade. And then there's a 4th density, which is where most of I want to say, my belief is where most of the Greys and other ETs live. and then they just kind of pop dimension, come down here, do some work, and can pop back up. And those are the ones who are not also currently here in third density, which is a much heavier dimension. And then there's fourth, and then there's fifth, and then there's sixth. And the meaning of the densities, can be found on the internet, and they're all pretty consistent. And I would say I agree with their descriptors for different densities or different dimensions and what the levels are. And we discovered that fourth density is where every single contactee is from. Our souls are from fourth density or higher.
Mm-hmm. And I think that explains, with ETs being from a higher dimension, or having, if you're looking at a fourth dimension, that would explain why they can move in and out of time, and why it seems like magic to us here on this planet when they're maneuvering through walls and things like that, things that we just don't understand at this level of reality that exists in higher planes.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, we're so stuck here in our third density lives on Earth. I have to work, pay bills, this COVID, the politics, the everything that can be, that we allow to be an issue here on this planet, that kind of takes over. And we lose sight as to what we really should do, or should aspire to do or try to do. And it can be just kind of overwhelming being down here. And so we're so consumed with being down here that we really kind of lose focus on other higher stuff.
I hear you're talking about souls, you're talking about an afterlife, a life in between. So do you consider there to be a supernatural component to all this? I'm not talking paranormal, I'm talking supernatural, being like angels, divine beings. Is there a hierarchy?
Okay. Just souls. They're just souls. Angels, there's so much to the spirituality people and groups that I don't click with me. Everyone, we're human. Our language structure and the way that we think, we have to give names, orders, structures. We're human. There's angels, demons, guides. There's all these things. They're just souls. They're just all on different dimensions, densities or dimensions. Densities, dimensions, same thing. They're just souls. I don't know why people have, it's like, oh well, just call for Archangel Michael and his purple flaming sword of why? Why do you have to envision this? Why does a person in this that's an archangel have to have his flaming sword to come and protect you? It's like, that's kind of nonsense for me. It's just a soul. Protect yourself.
Well, then is there a flip side of that? I mean, is there genuine evil?
No, there is no genuine evil, I don't think. My belief is we're learning. We spend many lives on each side of the spectrum of what we would consider evil, mean, aggressive, and then span the other side of peaceful, loving, compassion. This game that we play, that is life. We try to learn the whole spectrum of everything.
I mean, I got to tell you, I was a prosecuting attorney for a while, and I met some scary people. And the scariest person I ever met in my life was a 12-year-old. And I was appointed by a judge to represent this kid in juvenile court, right? And he'd been in and out of juvenile court several times. And I went to see him in lockup. and I'm sitting in the room, and I'm shocked that, normally they just bring the kid in, he has a seat and we talk, and they bring this kid in handcuffs and belly chains with like the biggest guard I've ever seen before by his side. And I said, well, thanks for bringing my client here. Can you take the chains off? The guy says, absolutely not. I said, well, I'd like to talk to my client in confidence. Can you leave the room? And he said, absolutely not. He's too dangerous. And I'm like, what? He's a 12-year-old. And I locked eyes with this kid. And I got to tell you, he scared me. He scared me. I won't tell you what he did. I won't go into that. But I can tell you, he'd been in trouble with the police since age 5. So he had a 7-year run. And I'm sure that this I look at people that are psychopaths, that have no remorse or no capacity for remorse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would consider that evil. I don't think it's real common to be genuinely evil, but I think this kid was genuinely evil.
Can you
do you
describe
think?
what it is that you felt when you looked at him that
Fear.
brought that feeling of fear?
Fear. I was afraid of the kid.
How? I mean, what was it that triggered the fear, do you think?
I locked eyes with this kid and I was afraid of him. I was glad the guard was there. I was glad he was in handcuffs. Of course, I read the report that was pretty graphic of what he'd done. That I won't go into. But my job was to represent him. And, he was 12 years old, but he talked like he was 25. I don't know where he is today, but I hope he's in a 10 by 10.
Makes you
Yeah.
wonder if he was a walk-in or something too.
You
Or
know,
if something like, why did it start at age 5? Unless they just didn't notice before that he had issues.
I think 5 was the age that he needed to be to have the physical ability to act out.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, you need to be 5 or above to start fires or use an axe. So
No, Terry, when did actually both of you, when did you guys kind of even have the consideration that you may be a contactee?
That's a good
when
question.
did I realize I was? You want to go first? Why don't you go first, Aaron?
I realized that I was probably a contactee at the age of 19. I had had paranormal experiences happen throughout my life up to that point, missing and added time included, which I didn't understand. Ghostly things, weird things looking at me while I was in my bedroom at night, just could feel they were there, but I never really understood. Oh, and the good old dropping into the bed, like all of a sudden feeling like I hit the bed
Yeah.
and thinking, was I levitating? I need to have a camera in my room, which is funny because now I do. Um, but it was 19. I was in college. I saw that there was a lecture being given. And I didn't know who it was at the time that was giving the lecture. Of course, now I very easily recognize it was Stanton Friedman who was giving the lecture. And I had so many emotions pop up at the time that he was talking. One was absolute fascination. I loved the topic anyways, and I was completely drawn in. And then the terror set in, and all of a sudden I couldn't look up in the sky anymore. I was like, nope, they're there. And it was at that point in time after that lecture that the memories started to come back. So I was 19.
19.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is early.
I was visited in my room by monkeys, little monkeys, 4 little monkeys. And, at the time, I had no idea about extraterrestrials, or I thought they were monsters or monkeys or something. But I know now today that they were, ET appearing to me in a way I'd see as most benign. But the first time I realized, and then they would take me to this round room where I play with the other kids, I still didn't get it. I got it when I was 8. I was playing in my backyard in St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm playing with a bow and arrow. I'm loading an arrow into my bowstring. I'm looking down, beautiful May day, not a cloud in the sky, and I see the circular shadow move across my feet. And I look up, and here is this beautiful saucer. And I say beautiful because it struck me the same way like a new Alfa Romero strikes me when I see one on a showroom floor. You know that vibe. And I'm looking up at this, and it's highly polished aluminum or God knows what, and it's wobbling a little bit in the breeze. But the second I laid eyes on it, all the sounds in the neighborhood, because this was Saturday afternoon in downtown or in St. Louis City. We lived in a row house. We had people all around us, and there's people out hanging up laundry and cutting grass, and kids and dogs and cats and cars and stuff all over the place. And there's a lot of noise. And as soon as I laid eyes on this thing, all the sounds became muffled, like I had my hands pressed against my ears. And I always thought that I kind of had the same thing happen to me when I was abducted in 1977. That we were on a camping trip in a forest, and the whole forest went silent. And that sounds so cliche, I know, but that's what happened. But yeah, at age 8, I saw my first flying saucer, and then I knew, I think these things don't, that wasn't made at Boeing, I don't think. Yeah. So that was my first experience, revelation that ET was real and here.
Did you realize at that point in time that those were the monkey men that were in your bedroom?
Not immediately, no, not at all. I thought they were two separate, non-connected things. And of course, 1963, it wasn't real popular. The word UFO wasn't even in the American lexicon at the time. It was flying saucers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my parents were convinced it was overexposure to Space Ghost and Lost in Space and whatever other kind of garbage I was watching. So they made me turn off the Space Ghost, and I could only watch Three Stooges. That's a real healthy alternative, right? So 4 weeks of watching Three Stooges and Moe, Larry, and Curly on everybody's last nerve. And they're like, yeah, watch something else. Watch something else. I started watching Perry Mason, and I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. I wouldn't mind doing that job. So kind of set me on my career path.
Wow.
I did. Yeah, I did. There's I've noticed that, sometimes I'll get like a little ping to be able to talk to someone about being contacted.
Oh, okay.
And, there's a lot of people out there that, don't realize they're contacted.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are actually in this, the UFO type community. And, and for the most part, they never really, it kind of didn't put 2 and 2 together.
I think that's dangerous. I mean, I do. I think if you've got that stuff down in your subconscious, I'm not a psychologist. I was a psych major for undergrad, but I think if you get that stuff down in your subconscious, it can filter up and manifest in unhealthy ways, like alcoholism or suicide or mental illness or those kind of things. So I think it helps to have a memory of that so you can process it and live with it.
Yeah, there was Richard Dolan was doing a presentation for Phoenix MUFON. Monthly, Phoenix MUFON has amazing people come and do presentations. We've had, the likes of, Richard Dolan, obviously Travis Walton, David Hatcher Childress does an amazing presentation, Ben Hansen, and a lot of times I don't go to the meetings because, again, not into UFOs, not into space taxis, but sometimes I will get that I need to go. Yeah. Whatever reason, I need to be there. I'll meet someone or something, I'll go. And typically I'll meet someone and someone who was like in the crowd and, there was like one time, one random guy was just, hey, what'd you think of that presentation? And I just looked at him. It's like, do you remember looking in at the window and seeing the UFO and the aliens in your yard? And he just goes, how'd you know that? He's like, I completely forgot about that. Because I'll just get certain things and then it's like, all right, have a nice day.
I think
But
I think, Dave, that you're being used as a tool in a way. Like, you need to go here and wake this person up. And it sounds like you're doing that over and over again, like the man with the pyramid.
yeah,
I think that you're just given those tidbits and
yeah.
are able to help these people
I have,
wake up.
I have, you know, again, gratefully, I'm in the position where I'm at with, you know, knowing the people from Phoenix MUFON, and they're being just very prolific with the speakers they have come in, you know, ourselves as, you know, this small community of, you know, people who are, you know, both contactee and non-contactee. Um, and, you know, again, it's like, I don't go to these meetings all the time, but if I have that urge to go, it's like, I'll go. There was one where Richard Dolan was doing a presentation. Richard does an amazing, amazing presentations. That guy is top notch. And he had his fiance there. I could only make half the meeting. And so, you know, the Stacy, the MUFON director, was there. And it's like, you know, hey, I got to take off. I got to help someone move. And she's like, hey, it's great to see you. I'm glad you, you know, came by. And as I left the building, by the time I get to my car, she gives me a call. She's like, hey, we're having a fireside in my backyard. Why don't you stop on by about 6 o'clock? And I was like, all right. So went, helped a friend move a bunch of stuff, went home, showered, changed, went to Stacy's house. And she has this really nice backyard and had this enormous, enormous bonfire going. And, you know, there was a bunch of people there from MUFON, and Richard Dolan was there with his fiance, and everyone's, bless his heart, you know, everyone comes up to you and tells you their UFO story. It's like, hey, I saw some lights in the sky once. And, you know, he's just sitting there, just nodding his head, just listening to them, and just, you know, being very, very exactly what a contactee would do. So, you know, I just let the guy go and everyone go up and talk to him. Well, Jim, who was the co-director, had brought Richard over and introduced me. And by this time, it's later in the evening, people had left. I had a scotch. He's had, you know, whatever he was drinking. We're just kind of able to like relax. And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, you know, you have a group of contactees? It's like, yeah. You know, we talk about all kinds of stuff. I was like, here, have a seat. And we just start talking, you know, we're just shooting the shit. And then next thing you know, we're talking more intensely. And now he's leaning in. And so, you know, we're talking about more stuff. And, you know, he just stops me. He's like, stop, hold on. I got to go grab my fiance. She's got to come here and listen to you. Goes in there and brings her out. And he's like, honey, you got to sit here. You got to listen to this guy. His name is Dave. Just sit here. And now the two of them are just like talking. And, you know, we're just telling stories back and forth. And in her conversation with his fiance, then fiance, now wife, she tells a story of how when she was younger, she wanted to go do some testing. And it's not like, you know, ABC type testing, is more visual spatial stuff. And she was pulled out of school and done that. And, you know, when she started talking about it, it's like, fuck, I remember that happened to myself also. And I said, I remember a certain test, you know, it was like, do you know your northeast, southwest? It's like, you know, as a kid, I was like, yeah, I know that. And they're like, okay, so you're facing north. You take 2 steps, you're going to turn left, turn right, and turn left, turn left. What direction are you facing? It's like south. And she's like, yeah, you know, that it was more communication, stuff like that. And, you know, there were some of the people where it was just, you know, when I first met him, it's like, you know, do you realize you're a contactee? And he's like, you know, no, what are you saying? It's like, you know, do you have that high pitch in your hearing? And, you know, they're both, yeah. And it's like, yeah, you're contactee. You're kind of doing what you're supposed to be doing by, you know, kind of helping bring, you know, some of this, you know, contact into the light. And, you know, in talking with them, it's, you know, we learn, you know, a lot of stuff. You know, hands down, Richard Dolan is one of the best historians. That guy just has his data. He knows exactly what he's talking about. And, you know, his now wife, she is a sharp cookie. She is sharp. And was talking with me about a project she wanted to do about trying to establish a contactee test. You know, how to test someone to see if they are a contactee. You know, she was talking about, you know, some of her testing, remote viewing. And, you know, she started telling me the story how she was with a group of people and, you know, they sat in their cubicles and were told to find this person someplace on the planet and, you know, describe what they see. And, you know, I'm listening to her, you know, tell her story. And she's telling me that she remembers, she's like, you know, I see it like a fountain. I can smell like wet grass. You know, I hear ducks, you know, so on and so forth. And while she's, you know, describing this, I start doing this. And then she's like, you know, I see this person and, you know, I'm doing this. It's like, why am I doing this? Because I'm listening to her so intensely. And then, you know, she goes on and, you know, says how she was, you know, successful in finding this person, but she's like, I see this big eye. And I'm still doing this. And then I told her, before she even really finished the story, it's like, you saw the person again, that person later on, didn't you? She's like, yeah. She's like, did I tell you this story? It's like, no, I just know this. And she's like, yeah, I ran into this person. And, you know, when I told her, you know, I'd seen her and found her, and she says, I remember seeing a big eye. And then the lady said, yeah, what I didn't tell anyone was I was putting on my makeup with my compact. And I was just doing this because of someone holding a compact.
Big eye. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So she was like, you know, big eye putting on her makeup.
That's pretty insightful.
Yeah. And the only reason I, you know, mention their names is because if you ever bump into them and stuff, maybe ask them or just so I can be verified. Because I don't want to like throw something out there, you know, and not be able to be verified.
No, we all need validity. You know what I want to ask you is, I know you're working on something, and then I was told to wake up. Can you tell us about your project and how it's coming? And
it is just a book about my life, how I see the earth and the universe and my contact and my understanding of our life agreements.
is it available now, or are you still working on
Yeah,
it?
I'm still working on it. I've actually been pretty busy with COVID. I have a small printing company and it just, you know, took off during COVID.
Well, good. That's a happy problem.
Right?
Yeah. Could have been
Well, when you get it in form and into shape and on the market or on Amazon or wherever, or, you know, if Simon Schuster comes and knocks on your door, give us a call and we'll have you back, and you can tell us all about your book and where to find it. And in the meantime, if people want to contact you, how do they do that? Or can they do that? Or should
they
they?
can go ahead and read the link below in your guys' YouTube information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I had asked Aaron to put a link to the contactee group.
Right. Do you want to give a quick plug to the group, since you are the
Chosen ET
creator?
Contact Support Group.
Chosen. Same name as Yvonne Smith's book.
That's right. That's right.
And that's really kind of interesting. I mean, I know there are NDE groups, I know there are UFO groups, I know there are abductee groups, but a walk-on group is kind of unique. And you got members from all over the world?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is just a contact.
Yeah, this is just a
contactee.
contactee group.
Yeah,
Just a
not
contact-
specific.
oh, okay.
We're just contactee groups.
Okay.
Yeah, it just so happens I'm a walk-in. That was allowed to remember. So
I got you.
I think it's an interesting combination.
It is.
Kind of is. Kind of is.
Oh, before we're done, because I know we're about at time, but it just popped into my head just now, thinking of that weird, complication of experiences. Are there other generations in your family with contact, or are you
Yeah.
the only one that you're aware of?
Good question.
I have a lot of cousins in the group.
That's
I
right.
have a lot of cousins in the group. My father, my grandfather, that friend of mine, she's a psychic medium, and she's freaking amazing. It's, just every bit as good as the ones you see like on
Well,
TV.
have her contact us.
Oh yeah, I should. Her name is
I'd like to talk
Meg
to Miss
Mahoney.
Yvonne.
Yeah, there's just there's so much more to everything that goes on that we really don't know, we really don't see.
We're stumbling around on Earth like Helen Keller's. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
much hidden from us.
Yeah, pretty much trying to figure everything out.
You
At
know
least
what?
there's some of us that we just try to do our best that we can, and not and do our best to help others out.
Yeah, not hurt anybody. Get
Yeah.
along, live a
Yeah.
life. Yeah, make a living. Do our best. Yep.
Absolutely.
Care of the planet.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we've eaten up enough of your Sunday afternoon, but boy, I sure thank you for coming on, because there's some interesting stuff, and it's a lot of stuff I had no idea. I have no idea about. I'm new to the concept of a walk on, and it's interesting as heck to me. I mean, I've always been interested in reincarnation, and this kind of bolsters that belief. So cool. Thank you so much. We
Thanks, Eric.
appreciate you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Look
You
forward
are
to reading your
welcome.
book.
Yeah, keep on writing. We'll talk soon, David.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
You are welcome. Bye.
All right. Bye.
We just spent a really good amount of time talking to David Maes about his phenomenal life experiences as a walk-in and a contactee, and being so strong in service-mindedness and working with others and doing his best to help people understand their own experiences and giving them support, and creating this awesome group called Chosen. That can be found on Facebook, and we will be posting links to it. If you do feel you are a contactee and you need some support, do not hesitate to reach out to the group. It is a good place to be. Now, the concept of a walk-in is something that is not heard of very often, and I find it fascinating, and definitely fits in nicely with everything else that we've been discussing through this podcast. What were your thoughts?
I was blown away. I had never heard of the concept before. It's totally new to me. I'm a believer in reincarnation. I'm a believer that, that we may have some say in choosing, our next incarnation. But his story was just fascinating to me.
It's almost like confirmation. I just got goosebumps as I do when things that are said that are true. And you said that, and I got goosebumps. So knowing that in his experience before he came into body, and the crazy thing is he's not being born into this body. He's walking into this child that's already 5. And I just, that concept is just absolutely mind blowing. But he was able to sit there and negotiate, what am I going to experience in this life, and what am I going to agree to, and what do I want to change, and how am I going to really fully work the system in a way, I want to have the best experience I can and learn these particular lessons. And he remembers it. It is absolutely amazing that he remembers this before.
You know who he needs to talk to?
Who?
He needs a session with Fiona Harris.
That would be good. That would be really, really good. I bet she would be up for it, and I bet he would too.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us. We are having so much fun with this show. The more you listen, the more you like, the more you pass on the word, the better it is going to be for everybody.
Please visit us on YouTube. We're also on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others I can't remember at the moment. But, really hit us up on YouTube, please. Like and subscribe. You know how important it is. And we love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much.
Standing under the great beyond.